All right, so we're going to talk about the Haunted Mansion from 2003, the original Haunted Mansion today, because there's a new one coming out. I think it comes out this weekend. I'll probably end up reviewing that. So I was like, okay, I'll go back and watch this original one because I liked it a lot when I was a kid. And I looked it up and I saw it was red on Metacritic. And I was like, oh shit, this is a bad movie, isn't it? This is a bad movie. This is a bad movie. It's barely a movie. It's really, it's based on a ride. And with these ride movies like Jungle Cruise, like Pirates of the Caribbean was like the standout, where it feels inspired. It feels like an actual movie. This Jungle Cruise and some of the other ones, not so much. This is directed by Rob Minkoff. The family in this, we got Eddie Murphy. That's Jim Evers, the father in this, and then Marsha Thomason. That's Sarah Evers. That's the wife, and then they have their two kids. I think Megan and Michael. They're about as boring a family as possible. Like that adds to it being feeling like a ride because they're so underdeveloped and boring that it feels like when this is all over, another family's gonna go through and do the same thing. Like this actually is a ride, even in the movie. But they have this setup and this dynamic between Jim and Sarah that makes absolutely no sense because they both are real estate agents. And he's really gung-ho about selling houses and things like that, but she doesn't seem to be, right? They're doing the classic storyline of the parent, usually the father, who's working so much that they have no time for their wife and kids and things like that. But they have the same job, so it doesn't really make sense. Later on, he gets on to her about like, oh well, this is how I buy you those expensive gifts, and it's like, you guys have the same job. It's just it's weird, like to the point where if she can make time, he should be able to make time. I kept thinking that, and to the point where he's supposed to be going to meet her for their anniversary, and he just has to stop and talk to this couple because he just can't give up the opportunity of making another sale.
Oh, excuse me, did I hear you correctly? Did you just sell their house?
I sure did.
Because we're looking to buy.
Hi, Sarah. My name's Teddy. Your husband told me to tell you that he loves you very much, but sometimes he loses track of the time.
It feels like the wife isn't supposed to be a real estate agent, but they have to make it that way because there needs to be a reason why the mansion calls and tries to get her to come down there by herself, right? And because she's a real estate agent, that makes sense that they're calling her specifically to come look at the house. But the dynamic doesn't really fit that. And as far as Jim being so into selling houses, they need that so that when he promises to take them to the lake to make up for not being around, it makes sense that he would be like, oh, well, we got to stop at the mansion first because we just got to get a look at it before we go to the lake. So that's why they did that, even if it doesn't really make sense or it doesn't feel fleshed out with that. So they get to the mansion. Things seem off pretty much right off the bat. They see a bunch of like pretty much a graveyard behind the mansion, and it's like, I don't know how they're gonna sell this, but whatever.
Well, some people have pools, some people have private cemeteries. It happens.
You're gonna sell a house with this?
You mean this historical sprawling manor with spacious grounds? Yes.
They talk to the butler, Ramsley, played by Terrence Stamp, and he's acting cryptic from the moment they first get there. Something's clearly off. He's doing like the cliche, like haunted mansion, like butler, where he's like, "Oh, right this way, sir. The master will be with you." And you hear the lightning strikes as he's talking. And they finally meet Master. I think his name was Gracie, and he's immediately just all over the wife, and right in front of Jim, and Jim is just still trying to sell the mansion. Then the butler, he goes up to the window. He's like, oh, well, the weather, because it's raining at that point, the weather is is flooding the bridge, so you guys can't leave. You guys got to stay over. And I immediately thought, okay, it's one of two things, right? It's either really convenient that they just happen to stop by, because they weren't supposed to stop by on that date. The mansion wasn't even expecting them. It's real convenient that it just happens to be raining on that day. Raining that badly to flood the bridge. Or, and I think it's this one, he's lying And it's convenient that they didn't go up to the window to look for themselves, even though they already have plans. So whatever. At that point, we're getting into more of the actual plot. The kids are following some orb, some ghost orb, and they find a picture that of a woman that looks just like their mom. And the kids have like no personality. They have nothing going on. They're 10 and 13. They look even younger than that. The boy apparently is like stealing his dad's Sports Illustrated. It's like, okay, that doesn't seem like that fits for his age, but whatever. The daughter has really nothing going on. Every now and then she says something kind of smart. She kind of has an attitude about her, but not much of a character other than that, and not much to do. Not really, at least. And their performances are not good, right? I think they're pretty emotionless in their delivery, especially the daughter. Like, she goes through this entire, pretty much almost the entire movie with this kind of face, with like no emotion whatsoever. So they follow the orb. Some things are happening that's kind of weird with Eddie Murphy, with Jim, and he ends up meeting the crystal ball, and the crystal ball is like, there's a curse, and you have to go find a key, because they meet these other people that work in the mansion. Apparently, there's only, I guess, two, and they find out they're all ghosts, and there's a curse. So, and they have to, I guess, not only get out, but deal with the thing with the mother. So they have to get into this like ghost carriage and burst out of the house, because at that the mansion, because at that point I guess the mansion is keeping them in, which I don't think was all that established before. And at this point right here, I had forgotten up to this point that this was based on a ride, and at this point it is 100% based on a ride. This is not a movie at this point. They get in the carriage and they're going fast, and then Jim, Eddie Murphy, he's like, "Oh, we gotta slow down," and then they're just like slowly going past it. They see all these ghosts. It is so obvious. And then I will say that the ghosts do look good. Like, a lot of the effects and the practical stuff, and even the CGI does look good. And the movie itself, I think, is shot well. It's a good looking movie. It feels like if they'd have actually wanted to make a movie, obviously it's a cash grab based on a ride, they could have maybe done something with this, but they didn't, and it's very obvious this is a ride.
Dad,
Yes.
I see dead people.
They even talked to these singing statues that I thought was all right. I thought that was the funnest part of the movie, where they keep singing while they're trying to ask them questions. It kind of feels like something that would happen in like Alice in Wonderland, something just like weird and kind of outrageous. And they would have to just kind of like keep going because they're not helpful. I like that. I wish more of that was in this movie, but no. They go to get the keys from some crypt, and the boy, the son, his whole character is that he's just pretty much a coward. He's afraid of spiders. So we get payoff for that, where he helps them get out, because there's a bunch of spiders on the door and things like that. So they go back to the mansion, and at that point, they find out that they have to now go find the chest that the key is for. Like, why didn't you fill them in on that before?
I got the key, and now you're telling me the story about a trunk. The key is the answer to all, remember?
Look, I don't make the rules, okay? I just work here.
They find the chest, and there's a letter in it. Basically, the backstory of this is that Elizabeth was the love of the master of the house, Gracie, and they weren't supposed to, well, they couldn't be together. They're from two different worlds, whatever. I thought they were going to maybe dip into some racism here, but like they didn't. Of course, they're not going there. But this is a kid's movie. All right, I get it. They don't really say, really. I guess they're just from two different, maybe it's a class thing or something like that. But they weren't supposed to be together, and so they were supposed to run away together, but she ended up killing herself, and she left him a letter before that. Turns out that the butler, what's his name again? Ramsley, he was the one who poisoned her and killed her, wrote that note that was given to him, and then he ended up killing himself. And so that's why they're all ghosts, and I guess that's what the curse is. The curse is really ill-defined, just so that they can kind of make up things as they go along. So the butler is pretty much the actual villain here.
The butler did it? You gotta be kidding me.
At this point, the butler's plan is to poison Sarah, the mom. She's been, with the master of the house, Gracie, the entire time, and he's been but very obviously like trying to flirt with her and things like that. And she seems like she's going with it. To be honest with you, they have more chemistry than Jim and Sarah do in this. It's like she completely forgets she's married while she's with this guy. But he wants to marry her. The butler wants to poison her so she'll be a ghost, so they'll be together and it'll break the curse. I guess the curse is just that they're ghosts and they can't leave, I guess. They couldn't see the light or something. Somebody said something like that, but like I said, it's ill-defined. So the butler ends up throwing Eddie Murphy, Jim, out of the mansion, and it's like magically sealed where he can't get back in, and puts the kids in a trunk, and obviously he plans on killing the wife. Eddie Murphy, he has to, Jim, he's got to psych himself up to get back in the mansion. This kind of, I guess they're kind of doing an arc with this where he wasn't around for his family, and now he's putting his family first. He's got to save his family, but it's not all that much of an arc. It's not well written at all. It's barely written, really. But he does get in, and then he starts dodging all these magical knights in armor. And he's doing really well for a real estate agent. I'll give him that, right? We don't need to make this make any sense. Then they have their final confrontation, which is nothing of a confrontation. This is where the movie really got bad for me, because he just goes up to them. He gives the original letter to the master of the house. And he's like, but he believes it because he sees the letters written in her hand. And it's like, well, the original letter, I'm sure, wasn't written in her hand. It was written by the butler. You didn't care then. So to the point where you killed yourself afterward. So it doesn't really make sense. But then the butler is like, damn you all to hell. And he's, the actual villain. That's the most memorable line in this movie. That's the only thing I remembered from this movie after all these years. So he says, damn you all to hell. And some ghosts fly through, and then you see this fire dragon come out of the fireplace, and I'm thinking, okay, Eddie's gonna have to like dodge some shit, whatever, and the dragon actually grabs the butler and brings him into the fireplace, I guess drags him down to hell. I don't know what was going on with that. It feels like they were like, well, Eddie can't fight this guy. We established that already, that he's a ghost when Eddie tries to punch him, when Jim tries to punch him. So we got to find some way to get rid of him. He gets dragged down to the hell, whatever. And then the orb comes in that turns out to have been Elizabeth the whole time. Sarah's dying from drinking the poison. Apparently she did get a little bit of it, I guess. And so she gets into her body and she's like, the curse has been broken because the truth was revealed. I was like, all right, I guess so. Whatever. And so they all, I guess the ghosts get to go to heaven or whatever. And they get the deed to the mansion. I guess they get to sell it or whatever they're going to do with it later on. I do have one final question, though. The crystal ball and the singing statue heads, they end up taking them with them when they leave the mansion. I guess they weren't part of the curse. Were they just already in the mansion? None of this makes sense. It's like, I was already kind of questioning it. I was like, well, what is this curse exactly? Usually with a curse, right, there's somebody who puts it on them, or there's parameters to it of how to break it and the specifics of it, but they don't really go into it. It does feel like it's just kind of made up as they go along. Yeah, I didn't even say the wife is really bad. Like I said, the son and the daughter were bad in this. Child acting, I get it, but it's the writing and the direction mostly, I think, with even with them. But the wife is so bad. She's so emotionless, and the whole movie like hinges on her. She has to do, not just be herself, but she also has to be Elizabeth when Elizabeth takes over the body and things like that. That's another thing. They don't really, Sarah's just okay after Elizabeth leaves her body, even though she drank the poison. I don't care. But yeah, she's not good in this. So much of this movie hinges on her, and she's pretty emotionless. Her delivery is very, very wooden and just doesn't do much. Anyway, I can't believe I liked this as a kid. Like I would have thought this would have been boring, other than a couple things like the zombies and the singing statue heads and stuff like that. But anyway, I'm giving it trash. It's not good. I was at a rental for a good bit of it, and then when it got to the point where it was very obviously a ride, and then all the stuff going on at the very end where it's not really that much of a conflict or climax or anything like that. It's just lame. That's when I officially was like, okay, this is trash. But anyway, yeah. Hopefully the newer movie is better than this. I honestly think that they didn't need to even make the new movie, or at least have it go straight to Disney Plus, but it has too many stars in it. But anyway, yeah, that's Haunted Mansion from 2003. It's not good. It is really not good. But yeah, subscribe, we're done.